Debate is fascinating. The formal discussion on a particular topic in which opposing arguments are put forward. Skills go beyond just debate and have applications you can utilize throughout life. Let's take a look at the University of Manitoba's debate club, starting with Tharindu. The art of debate and potential solutions to housing are what you can expect on this episode of U-Talk. Let's get into it.
My name is Tharindu Kotegoda. I've been here for about 10 years. I moved here from Sri Lanka. And I am the VP External of the U of M Debate Club.
What first got you into debate? I know it's pretty fun to watch debates online, whether it's like YouTube, you're watching your individuals like Vosh, or I guess beforehand, like Destiny, those kind of types. It's really fun and interesting to watch debates and people, rhetorical strategies and ways to kind of one-up their competitors. So what was it? Because you mentioned that it was high school that you first started. What first attracted you to it?
I think what most people would say is that they like arguing, and so do I. So that was kind of the starting point. And on top of that, there's shows that I really like to watch. I know CBC, every Sunday morning, I believe it's Sunday morning, there would be the show with Terry O'Reilly, and then after that it was CBC Debaters with Steve Patterson. So I always like to watch that. That's what kind of got me interested. And then in high school they had a debate club. I thought it would be super formal and everything, but I went to one of the meetings. It was just normal people having a fun time arguing, and then on top of that, after that, you got into strategies for a little while after that. But.
Yeah, when we were talking before, you're mentioning just how it was your first time kind of at the U of M getting into it. And of course, with COVID and everything, you can't quite do everything that you wanted. But walk me through that first year. What was some of the differences that you found going from high school debate to the university level?
There weren't actually a lot of differences. I think it's because, in high school, we also... it was kind of a club that didn't have a lot of members when we started, and we kind of grew it as we went. And it's kind of been the same experience in university since we were closed for a full year, so there wasn't any debate happening in 2020 with the pandemic. But then after we started, or 2021 for that matter either, and then in 2022 we started going back to full in-person learning, and we had a club that didn't have a lot of members in it, so we were looking at getting the membership back up and getting activities started. So it was largely informal, and it still is if you're interested in joining, right?
Oh, I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun. Like you go, you're learning, you're building your linguistics and just your ability to think about a solution from different angles. When you're approaching a topic, what are some of the best tools you like to use when breaking it down and bringing it to the debate field?
Well, one thing that we always talk about is that you always try to take, in debate practice, you always try to take your opponent at their best and not at their worst. Because some people think, it's a technicality that I can get them on, and that doesn't actually work. It doesn't work in debates. It doesn't work on judges. You want to take your opponent at their best, and really get the big picture of what it is they're trying to say, and you've got to refute that big argument in order to actually win or score points in a debate.
So walk me through a debate. What are you trying to do? What do the point systems look like? And how do you determine who was the winner at the end of it?
This would be more for tournaments. In the U of M Debate Club itself, we have debates, and there's usually not much of a scoring system. We kind of just base it on what could you do to improve what you did. But in a debate tournament, for example, there is a scoring system. You get, there's different categories for like argumentation, refutation, things like that. And then you kind of get, and delivery, and you get scored on a letter grade based on that. So like A's and B's and that kind of thing. And then after that, there's a final score that you get from 70 to 95. That's generally how Manitoba does it. for the MSDA, Manitoba Speech and Debate Association, for tournaments that I've been to anyway.
It can be completely different in different provinces then?
I'm honestly just unfamiliar with other provinces. I just know that's how Manitoba does it. I imagine it's probably similar, but I couldn't tell you exactly.
Well, I mean, maybe as things kind of open up a little bit more, and maybe this upcoming school year, you'll get to experience maybe tournaments in other places.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's actually a good point that you brought up, which is that this year we're expanding at the U of M Debate Club, and we're trying to send teams to other provinces so that they can go and debate. And we're getting prepared for that by getting funding from the U of M and, looking at maybe other sources of funding so that we can send team members to debate.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, going out, talking about important topics. So for yourself, what are some of the selling points of debate when someone's looking for different clubs or extracurricular activities heading into the school year? They see this debate club and they're like, this seems interesting. Why should I join this?
That's an excellent question. Well, the first thing I'd bring up is that if you were involved in high school debate and if you liked it, then this is a good way to keep going with it. It's informal. It doesn't take up a lot of your time, but it's still, there's a lot of learning in that process. And so like we do presentations and things like that for ways to improve your debates. We have debates. The U of M Debate Club is a great way to do that. But also it really, this was a quote from Chris Voss, who had a book on negotiation. And it was basically just that life is a negotiation. Yeah. And what you learn, when you're crossing the street, it's a negotiation. When you do anything, especially things like if you go to a job interview, you need to know how to sell yourself. Mm-hmm. And these are all things that you do learn in debate club. So you learn about, you learn about refutation and how to say things so that you can present the best possible picture of what you have, right? So this is something you learn in debate club. So debate is a necessary skill, not just for going to debates, but also in life.
Yeah, it applies to kind of everything, really.
Yeah, exactly.
How many stories do you see when scrolling on Reddit of people with horrible experiences in the job interview? They completely freeze up. So this could be a great opportunity to learn how to sell yourself.
It's just that, whether it's selling yourself in job interview or just for anything else, even, when you're arguing with a friend and you want to be right,
Exactly. Be like, my character is better than your character, sort of thing. What sort of topics do you usually cover in debates, or what are some that have been really exciting and things you have wanted to sink your teeth into? You're like, yes, this is perfect. I'm really excited to talk about this.
As a club, we cover a wide variety of topics, obviously. We as a club, we talk about the big picture issues that are facing Canadians every day as a Manitoba.
As you look at the news, there's so many relevant things to talk about right now.
Exactly, especially right now. There are so many things that we can talk about, and we tend to discuss them, even the controversial ones. We tend to stay away from those for a tournament, for example, but since this is an informal setting of debate, we tend to discuss everything. So, one of my favorite things to talk about would be the housing crisis and, potential solutions that we have, and we discuss that. There are also some other ones such as, for example, right now we have a population issue where Canada's population is increasing because of immigration, but otherwise it's declining. And we talk about what are some potential solutions to that? Well, there is immigration, but there's also the moral aspect of, your population can't afford to have kids, and so how can we address other affordability issues related to that? So there are a lot of things that we discuss at the debate club, and most of them are going to be relevant to your life as a Canadian.
There's so many things, whether it's the convoy and racism that's continuing to grow in Canada. Unfortunately, just in Ontario, a guy was arrested under suspicion that he's connected to a neo-Nazi group. This is the first time it's happened in Canada, which is very scary. Housing, incredibly important. No one can really afford housing. Rent is unaffordable. Food, interest rates. There's just so much to talk about, and it's a great opportunity to familiarize yourself with them more. You're breaking it down. You're seeing, okay, what are potential solutions to these things? So you mentioned housing. How'd you get interested in housing and urbanization? Why is that something that you've just been connected to?
Oh, the reason I'm interested in a lot of things is mostly because of YouTube. I just happen to watch a lot of it.
As things go.
Yeah. So, YouTube, and then, I just kind of stumbled upon housing, and I thought it was very interesting because it's an argument that I think that you would be able to agree on whether you're on the left or on the right, but the reason it's never implemented, I think, is because of politics. So in the sense that I think the main problem with the housing crisis is that, so right now we have roads, and to use that, it's free. So what this encourages is for people to drive more. So they would live somewhere and drive for everything else, right? And then what that means is that, so we've got that, and we've also got parking lots now for the cars that are being used. And we have a system where the taxes on space is property taxes, but then you get free roads in return. So I want to bring up a scenario. So you've got, let's say, a Walmart, kind of at the edge of the city, right?
I think anyone can picture a Walmart in their heads right now.
Yeah. Giant parking lots. There's like 2 or 3 RVs parked in there somewhere. So, and you've got that. They are paying a very low amount of property tax per square foot because most of that is parking lot, and parking lots aren't valued a lot, so you don't pay tax on them. Versus if you get another setting, which is like a dense urban core in the downtown, like a shopping district somewhere, like the Forks, for example, or even somewhere more dense, just like Portage Place as the mall or something, right? That pays a much higher amount of property tax per square foot because there's no parking involved or very limited parking. So what that means, and then, so you've got that. So there's way less money coming in from that Walmart at the edge of the city versus that, the shopping place in the middle of the city. Yeah. But now you've got free roads. If you're in the middle of the city, you don't need a lot of free roads because you can walk everywhere. Like, you have an apartment, you can walk to shopping, you might be able to walk to work.
Or that's at least the hope, you can walk places.
Yeah, I mean, walk or bike. But this is almost, this is worsened by the fact that roads are free. So this encourages people to drive, like I said. So you're better off living somewhere that pays low property taxes. Like, if you live in a suburb, you're going to pay lower property taxes per square foot because most of that is lawn, versus if you live in an apartment. So you've got people in the middle of the city paying more and getting less than people who live on the edge of the city. But the people who live in the middle of the city are poorer than the people who live on the edge of the city. So you've got poor people paying in and rich people getting benefits. And even they've done studies on this. I think there's a company, it's called Urban 3. Okay. I'm not exactly clear, but they did a study for a city, a city consulted them on where are we getting money, where are we losing money, because we want to stop charging so much taxes for our population. And it turns out they were making a lot of money in the downtown area where everything was dense. And so providing services for that is relatively affordable. But when you got a suburb where everyone is living super far apart, there's giant lawns, there's driveways, and there's free roads, everything is super spread apart, so you need more stuff to provide the same services for the people living out of the city. You need more of that than the people in the city. But the people in the city also pay more, and they pay less. You're losing a lot of money to those people that live kind of on the edge of the city. And that's an issue where I think liberals and conservatives could agree that poor people shouldn't be subsidizing rich people. No. That, I think anyone can agree on that. But the reason that it will never be solved, at least as far as I can see, is because the one distinction is that suburbs win elections. So, for example, the last election, the midterms and the presidential in the U.S. 2020, Joe Biden won that election because he won suburbs that before used to vote Republican, for example, right? Yeah. Suburbs win elections, whether it's here, whether it's in the U.S., whether it's in Ontario, whether it's in Manitoba. Suburbs are the swing vote that makes a difference between, for example, a conservative or an NDP government in Manitoba. Because of that, you've got an incentive to make these people as happy as possible. And that means doing this, even though this is an issue we can all agree on, it'll never be fixed. And that's the insane part to me.
And I mean, for those places, I mean, it's probably because they have the resources or availability to go vote. Like for a lot of people who are working paycheck to paycheck, sometimes it's like, well, can I afford to go vote, take off some time to go vote? Or if it's not even available or accessible in their area.
So another thing with that, part of the reason that suburbs win elections is because suburbanites vote more than people who are in the inner city. So that's like, A, they're swing voters, and B, they vote more. So you've really got an incentive to make them really happy, and that means having this horrid system.
Yeah, the problem with politics over, the needs of people.
Okay, so I talked about how the system is corrupt and how poor people are subsidizing rich people, but I didn't say what an actual takeaway from this is. Like, what can we get from this? Even if we can't solve it completely, is there anything that we can do to make this fair? And the answer is, there are some things we can do. The first is that you can subsidize public transit more than you already do. Why do roads need to be profitable, but public transit needs to make money? Or roads don't need to make money, but public transit does. Why is that? And I think it's because we have a flawed understanding of public transit. We don't realize just how much we subsidize roads to the disadvantage of public transit. And the logic here goes that basically if we replaced all our cars with buses, how much road would we need? And the answer is a lot less than if we had cars, because normally there's 1 or 2 people in a car that fits 4 or 5, and it just takes up so much space that doesn't need to. And that's what creates a lot of traffic. And that's why we need to build more roads because cars are so space inefficient. But one thing you can do is subsidize public transit and make it cheaper, because this is the reverse of what we do right now. So that would be takeaway 1. Takeaway 2 is that we need to build more densely, because you can see from the case study about, for example, that Walmart versus a shop in downtown, about how the Walmart contributes far less in tax revenue, but takes more of the city's money for services than that shop in downtown, which contributes more and takes less per square foot. So one thing that cities can do to encourage, to stop losing money so much, is to encourage dense development that actually gives the city more in taxes than it takes through the services. And that would be step number 2 of what we can take away from this. And I think combining both of those solutions would allow cities to, ultimately, this isn't a conservative or liberal thing. This is really about money. And I think, I think this is an issue that we can all agree on, that if we do both of these things, it'll help to counteract these negative effects. And ultimately, it'll lower the amount of taxes you pay. It'll make the system more efficient. It'll make it more fair. And I think it's just something we can all agree on as a solution to this problem.
Oh, that's interesting. And hey, these are conversations that people are having in debates. Like, if you want to learn more about that, yeah, why not check out the debate clubs sort of thing. Yeah. So that's one sort of topic. What are some other things that you're potentially talking about, or at least yourself would love to break down and have a debate on?
I think another one is obviously another major issue that we face as Canadians, which is climate change. That's a very big one, and at the debate club, we discuss, what's the best solution. Would it be, for example, would it be nuclear? Would it be solar? Would it, there's a whole bunch of ways, wind power, things like that. Hydro is a big one in Manitoba, and that's something we discuss. How can we do this? What are the best ways to implement this? And this is obviously a challenge that affects, again, everyone. It doesn't matter who you are.
And I mean, those with less resources, the poor, disenfranchised, are usually affected by this way more.
If you're rich, you can, you have more resources. You can, you can deal with the problem much better if you have more resources for any problem than if you're poor and you have less resources. So, these are things we discuss, and again, what are the best solutions to questions like these, or even healthcare, again, affordability, the fact that we have a population, kind of a population decline in Canada. These are all major issues. So if you're interested in that and you're going to be going to university, or even if you're in high school or middle school and maybe you have a debate club, maybe you want to start a debate club, you can talk to your teachers about that. And you can always contact the U of M Debate Club, and we can maybe even help you get set up with a school debate club.
Well, it's about providing people skills and opportunity, right?
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
You want people to join. You want to give people the most opportunity to learn, gain knowledge. Like that's what we want to do here, right? We want to give people information. We want to give them the skills and tools they need to succeed.
We are all about providing resources, and we hope that you can come to the U of M Debate Club, or even just contact us and you can learn a couple of things.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're going to school for?
I just finished second year. I'm going to third year. I'm studying actuarial math and statistics. So that's basically how insurance companies decide your rates based on the probability of an accident. Yeah. But that also goes into the investing part, so how you can invest your money and get a good return without having a lot of risk involved. Again, that risk management with your stock portfolio. And so it's about risk management both in investing and for everyday activities.
And there's so much you could learn from statistics. I'm not a math guy, but like seeing stats and seeing how they can kind of interpret data, sometimes things that feel like completely random on paper, but when you put it through a system, you can really get a better picture of what's going on.
And also another thing we learn in stats, though, is that it's equally important the data that you're putting in. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite professors, Jenna Ticons, always says garbage in, garbage out. So you need to make sure that you got to ask. And even there's something we talk about is if you ask questions differently, you can get different results, which doesn't seem to make sense, but that's how it really is. Mm-hmm. So, so again, you've got to make sure that you're asking the questions in a fair way. And this kind of ties back to debate, where you want to make sure that you're doing things in a fair way. And you've got to, if you're doing a survey of any kind, you got to ask the questions in a fair way that you'll end up with a result that actually reflects what people think.
Well, I'm really excited to see what comes out of the University of Manitoba's debate club this year.
I am as well. We're super excited for it. We're going to be, we're expanding. We're looking for more members, and we're going to be sending some people to tournaments in other provinces to really get our debate team back to where it was before the pandemic. So we are super excited.
Exactly. If you want to do some traveling, you want to do some arguing with other people, it's the place to go.
It is.
Have any stories you'd like us to share, or communities we should highlight? Leave a comment on our social media, or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was U Talk, and have yourself a good one.